Talk about like one of the crazy, surprising things to happen from the book that you were not expecting at all. Somebody to write a dissertation on a framework that you created is insane.
Right. Yeah.
What are some other like things that have popped up like that were just wild, beyond your expectations?
I've always been interested in American politics, and I got a call from National Security, and they said, "Can you come in and teach us the StoryBrand framework?" And so I went in, and they basically, the NSA has two different education arms. There's 600 or so executives, and these two different education departments teach like Jim Collins, and they teach. I'm sure they teach Ramsey and whatever to their leaders. And so that was really fun. I got to go inside of cybersecurity, and the security was insane, and get to know these people. And then they came to my house. I built a building behind the house so that I wouldn't have to travel very much, and we have a conference room in there, and so they came out. And then, we kept doing this for 2 or 3 years. We get on a Zoom and try to clarify things, but it was all help us teach our leaders to be better communicators.
Okay.
Then I get a call. Can we come out? We're going to talk about China policy. And I'm like, okay. And so we spend 2 days at my house, and we map out the public-facing NSA statements about China policy.
Wow.
So these are not secret. They literally don't want them to be secret. Right?
Yeah.
And we did that. Scared the living tar out of me. I mean, I was just like, holy rats, are you guys being serious right now?
Yeah.
This is not good.
Yeah, right.
That's what we came up with the tagline.
So what's the plan,
not
guys?
good.
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's a simple message.
So that was really, I felt like I've done something good for the country here.
Yeah.
And that was a surprise.
I also love the idea of them coming to your house. Like,
well,
I'm picturing in my
I
mind.
said, hey, look, I could come back. And they said, look, if you come to cybersecurity twice, you got to do serious background checks, and you've got to do polygraph tests. And as a writer, I'm like, actually, Matt, I want to do that. That sounds really, that sounds cool. Like I like doing things that I can write about later. And he just looked at me and goes, you don't want to do this.
You don't want to do that. You know what, man? I will take your word for that.
I'm taking his word for it. I was like,
why don't you come to my house?
So they came to the house.
I'm just picturing like a motorcade pulling up, dudes in suits and glasses pulling up.
It's a bunch of military guys
walking into the back of your house. And
I will say this. Nobody opened a computer. Nobody looked at a phone. Only yellow pads. And we drew all over my whiteboards. I mean, like insane amounts of stuff on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
And I walked them out. They got in their car. They went back to the airport. I never saw anybody turn around and go back into the room. I go back into the room, and that whiteboard has never been cleaner.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, and we didn't talk about anything.
Yeah, basically they just
secret. That's just their protocol.
They just got you a new whiteboard as well. They swapped it out.
They did. No, there was no digital record of anything we had done.
If that's how the NSA does things, then they definitely know some things.
They know some things.
Yeah, no kidding. So with the revisions and stuff that you put into now building a story brand 2.0, what would be like the most compelling reason that you think that if somebody has been kind of a disciple of the story brand concept from the beginning, because you published the first book in 2017.
Yeah, back a day, about 7 years ago.
Okay,
7 or 8 years ago.
So, what would somebody who consumed the first book gain from going back through the 2.0 version?
First of all, the stories that were not in the first book that are in the second book because of the 7 years of consulting I've been able to do. There's a company that makes fish food and aquariums and everything you would need to put an aquarium in your house. They called me and said, look, we do $100 million or so in business to hobbyists. So any fish hobbyist who wants an aquarium, we sell them truckloads of fish and everything else. We can't sell to families. And so we went through the framework, spent a day going through the framework, came up with a bunch of stuff. One of the things we came up with was a new tagline. Basically, once you go through the framework, it spits out for you the text you should use in order to engage customers. That's the whole point of the framework.
Okay.
And StoryBrand.ai does it without effort. It will literally give you 4 taglines that you could use. Any of them will work. You choose. It'll wireframe your website, all that kind of stuff. So I say, well, if you're trying to sell to families, just use 3 words: kids love aquariums. And if you put kids love aquariums on the fish food, you're going to sell more fish food. You put kids love aquariums on the aquariums, you're obviously going to sell more aquariums. You put signs all over the section, kids, because what that's telling parents is, oh, my kid will love that, so I'm going to buy it. We all love to buy things our kids love. 99% increase in sales.
Yeah, I was reading that story in the book actually on the plane this morning, and it's crazy because this is 100 million. They're doing 100 million a year.
Already.
Like that's not a small.
I believe that's the
operation,
truth.
you know. So when you go to a company like that, and then you go like, "Oh yeah, just put kids love aquariums on there," they got to just be like, "Well, we wasted our time and money and energy."
They didn't believe
this guy. I assume, yeah.
They were just like, "Come on, our boss read a book, and now I got to listen to this Yahoo."
Exactly.
And they're right.
Not the first time this has happened. Yeah,
they're right. They're smarter than me. I admit that. But I don't see how kids love aquariums could hurt. And of course, it did very, very well.
No kidding, did really well. But it kind of goes into the main problems that we all have, which is community.
Well, it's just really
survival.
hard to say things in such a way that people understand you immediately. That's the whole idea.
Yeah,
is to say things to people about your ideas, your products, your services, whatever it is. If you can say things to them so that there's no cognitive dissonance. And what cognitive dissonance means that your brain is having to think and it's confused.
Yeah.
And confusion is the enemy of all good messaging and marketing. If you start, as soon as you start confusing people, you're losing engagement by the masses. So if you can keep it super simple and make sure it's really easily understood. The problem is normally I would say that to somebody and then they would go, "Oh, okay, got it. Here's my tagline." And it's so confusing. I'm like, were you not even listening to me? And
confuse, you lose.
Yeah. So the framework started out as a framework to help people write words that other people wouldn't have to think too hard to understand, therefore they would engage. And now AI has just replaced it.
Yeah.
By reading the book, you can understand what StoryBrand.ai is doing and why it's coming up with the words it's coming up with. But honestly, it's coming up with them faster.